Hi everyone, thank you all for coming out today. I look forward to having a wonderful time here. It's my first time in this beautiful place, and it's just nice to walk in and have such a wonderful reception and great welcome. And so today I'm gonna be playing, I guess, all the instruments you see up here. Yeah, but most important, I've performed a lot and I've traveled all across the world. And the beautiful thing about coming in a space like this is different. It's mostly conversation, educational. So we'll, I'll take questions, and I would love this to be as interactive as possible. So I will be doing a combination of music, playing the different instruments, talking about playing techniques, talking about my songwriting, and also my own musical journey, and also how the instruments relate to the cultural context in Uganda, where I come from. I come from Uganda, by the way. Yeah, that was a nice way to introduce where I come from. Yeah, and Uganda is a country in Africa, East Africa specifically. You can't miss it on the African map. If you look at the map, look for the biggest lake on the map. It's right in the center. Or you look at the equator, the equator goes right through. So it's one of the easiest countries to find. Yeah, that's where I come from. And but the music has taken me to all parts of the world, and so globally now I've enjoyed folk music from all continents, and the reason I also share that context is and of course this place is beautiful, and I think most of you might know that, but you know that most of the countries are only less than 100 years old in Uganda, in Africa. But the music has been there for thousands of years. So today the music, when you talk about music from Uganda or music from Zimbabwe or music from Kenya, sometimes the music instruments and the languages have nothing to do with the countries, because the countries are actually created from the post-colonial times. But the languages, the tribes, the history has been on for thousands of years. And that's why you'll see instruments in Congo, in Uganda, and Sudan, and Ethiopia. You're like, how does this instrument is in Uganda, now you also find it in Congo? Well, that's because Congo and Uganda never existed ever. And the borders you actually see are really on a piece of paper and in the brains. So they don't exist anywhere. So the borders are very illusional. So, I teach history, and that's another whole conversation when we talk about actually history, real history. So you'll find the instruments here, instruments that look like that, they're played in Congo, they're played in everywhere. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a context. And that's why I enjoy these sessions more, because we get to talk to people as opposed to just performing for them. So thank you all for coming. Make sense? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So my English is my second language, so I hope I'm clearly understood. I do my best, and I'll speak as clear as possible. So I'm very sure you will all get everything I say. But the common language is music, which is a universal language. And so I appreciate, thank you, David, for inviting me and all the volunteers in this beautiful space. So I will get started. Yeah. So in Uganda, we call this the akogo. It's one of the easiest instruments to play because you only use your thumbs, just like you're texting. Actually, this is better than texting because when you text, some of the phones, a lot of the phones, when you press the letter, you have to wait for it. Sometimes it takes a couple of microseconds, but this is like instant. It's better. Yeah, so the instrument, you will look at many instruments that look like this. And in almost every country, every region you go to, they have a name for it. So in the eastern part of Africa, if you go in the Congo, sometimes they call it the sanza. It's called the likembe. It's called the Kogo in Soroti. Soroti is a region that is in the northeastern part of Uganda, where there's a lot of nomadic tribes, and the nomadic tribes are really because Uganda is situated in a place that is in between so Africa has two rift valleys. You have the Eastern Rift Valley and the Western Rift Valley. Assuming we know what the Rift Valley is. So in between those two rift valleys, that's where Uganda is. And so the borders, so that makes Uganda actually pretty unique in terms of landscape and weather. So in the eastern part of Uganda, as you cross into currently Kenya, that's where a lot of the nomadic tribes lived. And usually people there, they live in homesteads, meaning a lot of the nomadic tribes keep a lot of animals, especially cows, and they take them out to graze. And they used to play these instruments as they are doing that. And when the seasons change and the pasture is not good anymore, especially when the dry season comes, then they actually relocate to another place. And they have been moving for years and years. And when they move, they have no idea where they're going, but if they find another beautiful area, they settle there. So usually when they move, they cannot carry their homes and houses and everything. So they take their animals and they take their music instruments. But as they are going on this journey, they are always playing music. So the Akogo in that region was, historically known as a nomadic instrument that kept their languages, music, and culture alive even when they moved, to other places. Now, if you go to Southern Africa, where the name Kalimba was created, and the Bira in Zimbabwe, so it's not the same instrument, but the same family of these, thumb pianos. It's played like in a different context. But in Uganda specifically, it's related to the nomadic lifestyle in the eastern region. And so one of the ways you can trace cultures, how far they go, is through languages. So when the musicians relocated, the instruments, the songs they sang were either songs that talk about their homes, that talk about their history. And this also goes back to oral education, because before institutions like schools, libraries were built, a lot of knowledge was kept through songs played on these traditional instruments. All right. So then I'm going to play for you the kora, which is one of the instruments I picked up through my travels across Africa, where I learned to. So all the instruments here, I built everything I play here, so they are all handcrafted, handmade by me. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, and I'll speak to you later a little bit about the process of making the akogo. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a very quick lesson on how to play the kora, so that you can have an idea of what's going on with my fingers, because it's not magic. It's the technique. Yeah. So when you play the kora, you have the 2 thumbs and the 2 index fingers. So you use only those 4 fingers. So the concept is to have the left thumb play the bass line, and then you have the right thumb playing the main melody, and then you have the 2 index fingers doing the improvisation, English, all that stuff. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. And then of course you sing on top of that. So those 4 parts, because music is a combination of, I believe, a combination of rhythm, melody, and harmony. And when those 3 are put together very well, then the music sounds beautiful. When they are put together not very well, it is still music, but it doesn't sound so beautiful. So it's how you put those together. Yeah. So, and that's where words like polyrhythms come in, like syncopation, Those are very complicated words. But the idea is they're talking about if you're playing three people, you don't play the same thing at the same time. You kind of find where there is space and you feel that space, so it brings what I refer to as texture, rhythmic texture. So that's what happens with most of these traditional instruments. When the player is playing by himself, because in the Western context, a lot of the musical performance is either a band or an ensemble or a string quartet. So there's groups. Now you can imagine if you grew up in the village where there's no orchestra, it's just you and your instrument playing. And you're playing in a family. Sometimes there's people, sometimes there's nobody. So the instrument has to still sound full and good. So you won't find people be like, you know what, I'm playing this chorus, but I need a drummer. No, you only find that when you go to other countries where there's always something missing. So music is meant to be full, to make, you can play with other people, but even when you're alone. So today the goal is to show how these instruments sound in that kind of context. And kora players and other musicians playing the kalimbas, playing the ndongo, they still play with other people, but it's important to understand the context. So I'll give you a very quick lesson on how to do the bass, the melody, and the improvisation. Yeah, I already feel some of your fingers going like that. Don't think about it too much, Yeah, it's just, yeah. So this is the bass line. These are all very simple melodies, and this sounds pretty much maybe boring, But then when the rhythm comes in, because it comes in at the counterpoint, then it brings that beauty. Those are the two thumbs. Now the third one is the most interesting one. That's the technique. Yeah. So now I'll make you some music. You like that? Okay. It's a bass, melody, improvisation. So each of those pieces, they're very brief, but when they are put together in this kind of counterpoint, polyrhythmic, it creates these layers that because when you make music, it's not about perfection, it's about beauty. So I do a lot of mentorship for young people through our nonprofit around the world, where we use the transformational power of music to empower children and allowing them to express who they are, to be able to be seen, and the whole goal is to get them to perform and present their music and share stories from their backgrounds, but not only to achieve technical excellence in performing, because when you focus on the technical excellence, you always feel there's something missing. You can do better. And it brings kind of you feeling you're not good enough, feeling that you're aiming for something, but when you focus on achieving beauty, you could play 2 or 3 notes and they still sound full, because there is so much joy in approach. So it's the approach of the music. And again, I'll talk a little bit about that, how music in Africa and in Uganda, the foundation of music was never to entertain, it was never to perform. It was not to have performer and audience. Music was like the magnet of the community. And all the instruments here, the stories that used to be shared were carrying messages, teaching. But when the global world of economics put a price on it, it changes everything. Because then now it's about being bad or good, it's about being better, and then it's kind of, so we always have to remember that the roots of folk music all over the world, it was so beautiful, but partly because young kids, 5, 6 years playing, nobody told them you have no sense of rhythm, you have no sense of harmony, you can do better. No, they were playing 1 note terribly, but feeling so great about it. Yeah, that's how I grew up. I watched my videos when I was 6, I was always thinking, but everyone there was so happy to see me play, almost play nothing. But yeah, but that done a lot of times brings this level of confidence and just empowers a child. So anyway, sorry, when I go all over the place. So now I'm going to let me. So I'm going to make a couple of layers. mumendo katini alama ka kalidanda yela na mambo wangu. Thank you so much. So the chorus is 21 strings. I broke one. There are 20, so don't count them. There should be 21. Yeah, I have 20, but they're normally 21. So and then this is it's made. So the body is made from a goat. You know, it takes about 6 to 8 months, I think, to kind of get them to this size. They are very specific seeds, so there are many types of goats. So this has to be really the seeds are a little bit different from the goats here. The goats here have a lot of moist water in them, so I think you'll break a lot of corals, which is okay. And it's wrapped with a cowhide. So you take this from the garden and split. I mean, the goat split it. It's like a fruit, like a pumpkin, like a squash. You split it into two, and dry that. And when you have two halves, you can now make two corals. So when it's dry, you really take, you can use. So the sound comes from three things: the thickness of the gourd, the thickness of the hide that you use, and the type of wood that you make the neck from. So the combination will define the sound and the resonance. Like I have a coral I built from Brazilian rosewood that time when it wasn't as difficult as it is to get it today. It's like 15 years ago. The coral has so much resonance. It's because I wanted to try making corals from different types of woods, and I could start to see the difference. But anyway, so you take the hide and you wrap it around. If you look closely, you still see the dry marks of the hide here, because normally it's wet. And then you kind of wrap it around and tie I don't know what it's called, a knot. Yeah, I think knot. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And then it dries there. So once it dries, it keeps those marks there. And then you can hook it up to the instrument, either the blacksmiths make very, very specific steel pins. I haven't used those because they are a lot heavier, so that's why I kind of replaced those with the thumbtacks. These are beautiful too. Yeah, and then they attach the hide there. And when you look here, then you make two cuts. You make one cut over here and another cut over here on top of the hide, because then you can slide this stick through to come from here all the way to the back, and this turns around. So you make two cuts here to take this through, and another cut on here to take this through. And then, because if you look at the instrument, there's nothing like glued anywhere. So it's being held by tension. Yeah. So these three sticks, 1, 2, and 3 going across, they help the bridge not to fall in when it goes over the height. And pretty much, so traditionally, the chorus, and I saw one when you walk into the museum here, it's up there. It has a round neck, and the neck has got rings, and those rings are made from cowhide. So in every string used to go to one round neck. So you have to push that ring up or down to tune, which is easy to do back there. But when you fly from Africa and then you fly to Vermont where it's -40, the chorus don't like that. Yeah, they like stability. Most of the instruments actually like stability, especially when they're made from wood and hide. So sometimes they drop 3/4 tones, 2/4 tones, and then you're playing outdoor concerts and you can see the tune, the key, dropping and changing. So when I built my chorus, because at the time I was traveling a lot to France and Spain and Europe, playing with a lot of European musicians, doing a lot of fusion projects, then I had to build one with the tuning aids to be able to adjust the tunings very quickly. So if it dropped or changed, I can easily change that. With the rings made from cowhide, that's a lot of work. Yeah. And why? Because traditionally most of these instruments were played in the areas where the temperatures were pretty much stable. But when you start to travel, then instruments change behavior. Yes. Yes, please.
What were you singing about? What were the meaning of the words?
Komao means, thank you very much. Yeah, so I was singing about, the song is called Komao, and Komao means please return home. So the song I was singing about specifically, when you grow up, because we grew up in a community, there are all these kids in the community that we develop friendships with, that we are like brothers and sisters. But as we grow, sometimes families move and they relocate. And sometimes when you relocate, and this is a true story for me, there are people that you met and grew up with, and then now you're separated, but you have no idea where they are. But because of their goodness and kindness around you, these are memories you have. And then you get at the point in your life, and even today, you have people still looking for high school friends. But the best way, like we do it at home, is you write a song about that, hoping that, because the song, remember, music keeps the stories alive, hoping that that song will be heard by that person, wherever they are. And then, so in the song, I specifically specify the things that we used to do together. This is a song I wrote about a community where I lived as a child, because I left home when I lived in Uganda, but then I traveled to Europe when I was 9 years old to perform my first show. And then I was hosted in a family. It was the first time I was in a different family as a black kid from Africa, now living in a white family in Germany for 3 months performing. So the family became like, I had like parents that were in a different country, and they used to take us to all these places. So then we made all these beautiful friendships. But at the time when I returned to Uganda, there was no internet, there was nothing like that. So when I grew up, now I have all these pictures, but I'm trying to find a way to reconnect with a lot of these families. And some of them I have, but others have not. And some of them have found me online because they see where I'm playing, and they're like, oh, we saw you 20 years ago when you were in Belgium. I'm like, oh, great. So I wrote that song from that experience, talking about two of the friends I met when I was in Germany, and they came from another whole different family in the neighborhood. But when I asked the people now, it's like they have no idea where they are. So I wrote that song for them, talking about the beautiful memories we had as kids from different continents, different communities, backgrounds, but we came together and we had so much happiness. Yeah. Any other questions, please? Yeah, so in between you can ask me any questions, and then at the end we shall have a session where we can do like a Q&A. Yeah. But But if there's something anyone needs to know, then feel free to interrupt, and I'll be more than happy to. Yes.
How long did it take you to make this one?
How long?
Other than the growing time.
Oh, other than the growing time. That's the most amazing thing. So the instruments look sophisticated, but I can basically put together, without the growing time, about 3 to 4 chorus in one day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's minus the growing time. And the growing time is great because you get to harvest 100 gourds and you have them packed in a room. So, because everything, like what I explained, like think about it. Of course, minus the growing time, minus the growing time of the cows that use the alpha. So, yeah. So a lot of this is assembling. So you get basically 5 gourds and wrap hides around them. That takes a couple of minutes and put them under the sun for 5 hours. Now, as they are under the sun, now you are starting to kind of prepare the wood. So after 5 hours, it takes an hour to put one of these pieces together. So, because the idea is, people get like a tree, and then they cut down the different necks, and they kind of start to work on them. So you will have all these necks, you'll have all these calabashes, you'll have all these hides. You just have a room full of all this stuff. And when it's there, it looks crazy. So you just have to take all these pieces and put them together. It's like a puzzle. You get, and then you put it together, then, oh, it works. Yeah. Yes, please.
I can't tell from here, but it looks like on the back side, the wood is black almost. What is that? Or is that?
That's a beautiful observation. Yes, so, yes, that's true. So there are 2 pieces of wood, but the idea was to make it look like one piece. So there was a piece of wood which goes from here all the way to where. And then there's another layer that is put on top of this at the back. So the layer put on here is a different type of wood, it's a type of wood that has 2 colors, which is partly black. So this is like, and the reason I did that is because when you tune, you'll see most of the chorus built this way. The tuning heads are hanging out. Like you can see, the goal was for me to have the wood flush with the pegs, so that if I rest it down, it's the wood resting down and not. So the neck initially was topping here. Just if you look at the guitar, you'll have the tuners popping out. So I added another layer of wood at the back here and kind of made a place to put the finger in. So you have this wood, and then in here you have the bridges made from ebony. So the strings go over the wooden, like a fret, all the way to inside to the back. So yes, there is a black piece of wood put all behind this, and then you kind of sand that together, and then it feels like you basically glue it on and then sand it, and then it feels like one piece of wood.
Is that ebony? The black?
Yes, this is ebony. Yeah, there's a lot of ebony back home. Yeah.
You can't bring it into the country anymore, I don't think.
No, you can't. But you can bring the instruments.
Yes, right. You can't bring it in.
Yeah. So, and now you can, so like the kalimbas I play, I'm building a lot of kalimbas here. So I have a workshop an hour from here at home. Because I moved here now. So I build all these instruments, and I'm using a lot of African mahogany to make the kalimbas. I'm using some finding woods that would, and then I have, pieces of ebony, very small pieces that now you can't make a whole piece from ebony, but you can make the threads, you can make the add-ons, the designs. Like I'm now making kalimbas with ebony bridges, and those look a little bit different because the sound is different from the metallic texture. This is the ndongo. This is like the great-great-great-grandfather of the blues. Yeah. So everything you hear in what you call blues music here, this is like the source. And then, so this is this is one of the most ancient instruments from the Buganda region of Uganda, which is my tribe, and I'll talk a little bit about this after I play you a song. But you hear there's a buzz that comes from the instrument. Just to let you know, there's nothing wrong with it. That's actually what it sounds like. And that buzz comes from the hide. Because the hide, if you look very closely, the hide is from a monitor lizard. So, we have lizards that small, and then we have lizards that small. Yeah. So, then there's no bridge like all other instruments. So the strings rub directly on the hide, and then it creates that kind of buzz. And you can obviously tell that we had the distortion in Africa before Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, that's true. Yes, please.
In Uganda, do you live in tribes?
Yes, we have about 52 languages now. 52 languages. And each of those languages is pretty much a tribe.
52?
Yes. Like the central region is the biggest tribe, but when you go outside the central region of the Buganda kingdom, every 50, 60 to 80 kilometers, we use kilometers there. In America, everything's different. Yeah, I'm used to kilometers and kilograms, and like in the UK, in Europe, like I was like, we're walking by the pavement, and here they call it a sidewalk. So it kind of confused me sometimes. So yeah, I tried to, but so so in miles that would be, I don't know, but about 60 to 80 kilometers is like another language, another tribe. So, and this is not only in Uganda. In Cameroon, they have like 70, other countries. So these tribes, like Africa has thousands of languages. And tribes, basically every tribe has its own language. And these are not dialects, these are languages. So when you see a country with so many music instruments, it's like every tribe has got its own identity, like its own music instrument. So present day Uganda, once the borders were drawn, then 50 tribes ended up there. But if you go like to the borders, the tribes in Eastern, for example, Uganda is here, you have Sudan, you have Tanzania, you have Congo, DRC, and you have Kenya. If you go at the borders of the country, you will find the same languages on either side of the border. People on the borderlines almost can understand each other. So it means when the borders were drawn from the agreement, the Berlin Conference of Partitioning of Africa with the British and the German and the French, it's like when when you draw a house, it's like when you build a wall in the middle of your house, and you wake up the next day, and some people are in the living room, others are in the bedroom, and then they think they're in two different houses. Yeah, that's the closest I can relate it to. But so these tribes are still so much alive, and everybody speaks a different language.
Do you sometimes communicate with other people from the other tribes?
Yes, because now there's a lot of movement, people moving from one area to another. Then there's a lot of intermarriages happening, where children are born and they speak, like I speak 5 languages. I know people who speak 8 languages, plus French and English, which I learned from traveling. But you have, children who now have either gone to school in a different area or gone to university in a different area, and they have friends, and then they end up interacting more. Before, there was not so much interaction, but now, yes. Yeah, so we call this the ndongo. So this instrument has a very special significance in the tribe, in the Buganda tribe. So among all the instruments we play in Uganda, the ndongo is believed to have been one of the most important royal court instruments that was played in the palace. And pretty much only in the presence of the king. And the role of the instrument, like other royal instruments and royal musicians, was actually to communicate to the people. And when the king or anyone in the hierarchy had a message for the people, they used to call the musicians and give them that message. And then the musicians go across all areas performing and singing these songs. And that's how the messages were brought across, because you didn't have Twitter, Instagram, FedEx, DHL, all that stuff, you know. Yeah, that stuff maybe it will stop at some point. But think of it, you know, many years ago, without all that, without all your fancy phones, without the cars, without even the booths to call, nothing. So the role of musicians in the royal kingdom was to even forget about communication, knowledge sharing. We had no libraries. So how was the history kept? The history was kept in songs. When we learned songs from our grandparents, that's how the songs, that's how information and history was being passed on through oral education. And when you talk of oral education, it's not only storytelling, it's actually learning the songs. So when we learned a lot of the traditional repertoire, we are learning about things that happened many years ago. I was very lucky to be very good friends with one of Albert Sempeke, who is who was one of the last living, royal musicians who actually had played music in the palace ever since his childhood. And when I came here, I just realized that the people who work at the museum here, they have been in connection with one of my older brothers who donated some instruments here. But he published a book that I was told they have it here, and you can read more about. His name was Albert Sempeke, so he was one of my teachers and one of the people that my brother, who is now a music professor at Chinobay College, worked with. So we learned a lot of the repertoire from him on this instrument, because this is the only instrument that you could not learn from anywhere else, because it was only played in that context. And the same, when the people had a message that they wanted to communicate to the king, say for example, if the people were really upset with the king and they have all these thoughts burning, they could not reach the king, so they used to call the musicians and speak to them. And some of these messages were not very pretty. But then musicians had a very beautiful way of putting the information together. Then they said to the king, "Whoa, we have this nice song for you." Today it's different. They don't like what the king does. You open your computer and write your mind out. So musicians were very important in diffusing tension in the community. So because they had a very nice way of packaging a message in harmony. So the king, he thinks they're playing him a nice song, and then halfway the song he starts to realize but by the time it's too late, he has already enjoyed the first part of the song. So you can't only say you like one verse, you don't like the other. You like the song. So, and they were very good at that. So then eventually he sits down with his team and they fix a lot of things. And some of these were, the ndongo was a very significant instrument in allowing communication to happen. And then each time people saw musicians play this instrument and another instrument they like too, they knew they had a significant message to actually share, so they were given attention. And don't forget the fact that at that time we had no schools, we had no institutions, so a lot of the people could not read or write, but everyone could listen to music. So music became one of the best ways to bring communities together. Today still, because today they are literally, most of my work is connected to is connected to, using music as a path to allow our communities globally to interact with one another, and mostly as a pathway for, young people, especially, I worked as an ambassador for UNICEF for over, 7 years, and my focus was to campaign for free education for girls in developing countries and allow, young girls to come into leadership, and because then they help the community thrive in so many ways, a lot of them. So during that time, traveling around the world, I felt my music had to represent something beyond just the entertainment. But then I realized that music became so powerful because it's the only tool today that allows people from different cultural backgrounds, political backgrounds, to be in the same room together. And when you play a song and you ask them to dance, guess what? They will dance on the same rhythm. You can't dance off the rhythm, even when you try. No, you can't. Yeah, you'll be like, no, I don't like this song, let me dance off rhythm. You just can't. Your body won't let you do that. And if you try to do that, you'll be very unhappy because the music will keep putting you back on rhythm, inside rhythm. So music still has that sense today, not a sense, that reality of actually allowing dialogue to actually happen. So the endongo, should be very important today as well. Anyway.
Can you tell us a little bit about the song you played for us? Was that modern or was that a traditional song?
That's a traditional song it's a traditional song, it's a traditional story, and a traditional song actually with my own arrangement. Traditionally, it's in it's in a different rhythm. So the song talks about Ntunze. The song is called Ntunze, and it basically talks about a very special kind of fish from Lake Albert. Lake Albert is the lake that is the rift. It's in the western Rift Valley in Uganda. It's a salty lake. And there is a very special kind of fish from this lake that is very rare, but this fish does a lot. They do a lot of, like when children are born, here kids get like all these vaccinations, like polio, malaria, whatever. So in those days, we never had that stuff. So there is a very special fish that they used to make a lot of powder that helps babies to build immunity. So they kind of prepare that, dry it with salt, and then they put a little bit of that into the food and in the milk they give the babies. And it was very, very important for treating measles. And we all had it. Like if you grew up in the countryside, there's nothing like a hospital, so most of the mothers saw. But this fish is very rare to find. But because people know the purpose of the fish, so they wrote a song about this, encouraging in those days, like if every child that is born, parents need to have this in their home. So now this is a song that was written by people who used to walk around the village, giving this kind of fish powder to most of the families to have it, so that the kids could be healthy. So it helps to build immunity, and then also specifically to treat, because every child got measles when they were young. And this fish the fish is called nandede. It's very, very small, like almost 2 fingers, so it's a very tiny type of fish. It's not like for eating, it doesn't. So they fish it, and then they dry it, and then pound it, and then create like this powder, but it has like all the nutrients and everything. But that's a traditional song. I don't know how they found that out. So, science has been going on for a long time. Yeah, so that's the song I just sang. Yes, please.
Is the instrument just one key?
Key, yes. Only that I can play like in 3 of different modes, but the key doesn't change. But then for me, traditionally, yes. But now, because I have played it like a long time, sometimes I change like 1 note, and then I can shift the key, but you still don't have like all the notes. You have just a couple of notes. Yeah. And if you look at the the Ethiopian instrument known as the kra, it looks just like this. If you look at the Kenyan instrument known as the nyatiti, it looks like that. If you look at the ancient harp in Egypt, it looks like this. So this instrument is believed to be in the family of the original harps from sub-Saharan Africa. Dating all the way back to the harp played by King David in Egypt. So they were very small and they had the same shape. And most of the countries in the south of Egypt, like, you have Egypt, you have the Sudan, you have Uganda, you have Kenya. That's where you find Ethiopia, you have these kinds of shaped instruments. In Ethiopia, the kra. In Egypt, I don't know what they call it, but if you look in the East African region, you'll see that most of the countries in the sub-Saharan region of Africa have this kind of loop-shaped instrument, and they just have a different name for it. Now, this version we call this the endongo, E-N-D-O-N-G-O, endongo. In Uganda, that's what we call it. Great. So the first akogo that I played was plain, and this one has these rattles that sound a little bit different. Thank you so much. Are you enjoying this?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to come and share all these stories with you. It has been beautiful I feel blessed to be able to go around the world, but I feel more blessed to be able to share, interact with people, and to allow me to share more about what the music actually represents, and more of the stories about the instruments, about the culture, because behind any kind of sound, music, there's so many layers that sometimes don't come across in just a mere performance. And most of the spaces that we present in, unfortunately, don't create the opportunity to allow the artists to share, why they compose and what the music means to them. And for me, over the last many years, growing up in Uganda, pretty much in a society that was so different, extremely in a lot of poverty, but the music became a pathway to change my life and to be able to use the same pathway now to support and change the lives of many other children around the world. And my goal now is to allow this music to be a bridge, to allow a lot of young people, students, most especially in America and other areas to connect with the world and understand about, because the media brings all these stories from around the world in a narrative that they want to create. It's always about disease and poverty and everything, but there's so much about the food, the music, the culture. So music represents all these communities in its true facets, and where culture is actually really elevated. And I think for me to have the opportunity now to interact with many students in the US and to come in a space like this, I don't take it for granted, and I'm very grateful. So thank you for being here. I would like to take any questions that you might have. Believe me, I can play music for 48 hours non-stop. You sleep and when? Yes, please.
When you were 9 years old and did that concert, did you play one particular instrument and sing, or what was your concert?
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, that's the memory actually that changed my life completely. And I draw back onto that, and I realized that you can have the talent, but the opportunity is really important. And now, that time I was playing, funny enough, I did not go to play any instruments. I was singing mostly. But then 1 week before the trip, then I picked up the akogo and I began to play the akogo. So this was the instrument I was playing mostly, because at school, first I'll go a little bit back. Remember that I told you about how I build all these instruments? How that started and how it is. When we grew up in the countryside, we don't have access to toys you can buy for kids to play with, because there are no malls, nothing like that. You can't go in a mall and buy this kind of gadget. So most of the children, we ended up making things to play with. So we had to build things to entertain ourselves. You make an instrument, it breaks in 5 seconds. So in a day, you make like 30 of those. So a week before the trip to Europe, each time we had a break, we used to make all these crappy instruments. So the teacher in the group saw me play that, and they didn't know I played the music, because I learned to play the music, because I grew up next to the palace where we used to go watch musicians play all day. You go there like at 7 in the morning, you watch these musicians play music non-stop. And literally for 7 hours, you're waiting for one thing. You're waiting for them to have a break for lunch, and you run to their instruments and play for 5 seconds. We did that every day for years. But as they played, all that music was kind of going in your mind. So when the teacher saw that I played this, he was like, I've never seen you play that. And then they now asked me to play the kalimba. So we go to Europe, and then now they changed the show, so I had to play at the opening of the concert. But I was 9 years, I woke up on the stage. I had never been on a stage with the lights. I had never seen anything like lights, because in Uganda we used to perform and practice like in the dusty, crazy places. It was beautiful. And then now here we are, all these fancy things. It was very scary. And then I had never had the instrument amplified. So I played, and then I had my instrument ringing over there, and I stopped, because I had no idea what was happening. I don't know why this instrument was sounding from there. But the audience, there was like darkness. I didn't know there were people in the audience. So then my teacher is whispering from here, it's like, keep playing. And like I play one note, then I hear it there, then I stop. Then all of a sudden, people start clapping. And I'm like, oh, they're people. So, and then I kept playing, and then I felt that encouragement, like that kind of self-esteem. I was very shy. So for the following month in Europe, that's like the instrument I played. So on every show, but because I used to take that with me everywhere, in the mall, if we went to the park, if we went everywhere, because I did not have any other toys. So for me, it wasn't a music instrument. It was something that you carry with you everywhere so that you can have fun with. Yeah, so then it became like one of the instruments I love most, because it meant a lot for me that time as a child. And it was the only instrument that I played for a long time, because a lot of other instruments, I picked them on later from being with teachers and traveling. But this one, we made this instrument like 40 in a day, and by the end of the day they were all broken. And we woke up the next morning with a big task to make one that will last for at least an hour. And then you play it softly, and then your friend is like, that's cool, can I try? And then they play it so hard and it breaks. And then the next day you make others. So yeah, that's...
Thank you.
Yes.
Have you done much collaborating with other musicians from different other styles, like rock or jazz or blues or classical?
Yes, that's what I've enjoyed mostly. That's why I refer to my music as global roots in a way, because I've collaborated with a lot of wonderful musicians before. But unfortunately, they were more on a kind of celebratory level, and I feel more connected to just interacting with musicians in the community. And now I'm trying to, like this September, I'm doing a performance with Bella Fleck in Asheville. It's gonna be beautiful. Yeah, but I've played with a lot of jazz musicians, I love bluegrass. In the early 2000s, I did projects with world music in the UK with Peter Gabriel, because he brought a lot of these musicians together. And then through him, we connected with artists from India, from all over the world. And And so that was really beautiful. But I have a passion for allowing music to connect with different cultures, especially musicians. I've played with, Howard Levy, who's a great harmonica player. We did a couple of shows in Chicago and the Midwest where it was kalimba and harmonica. It's beautiful. I love that so much. I love collaboration, and I feel collaboration represents the community that I want to create, help to create as a global music community. Still, artists are representing their true cultural backgrounds, but then they can now play music together. Because when you play with other people, it influences the way you play. Like, if I played for you the traditional style of playing the kalimba, it's very different. But like when I play with my technique on the kalimba is brought a lot from a lot of collaborations that I've done with a lot of jazz guitarists and other musicians. You listen to what they are doing, and then you pick a lot of those techniques and take those on. Yeah. Yes, you had a question, please.
How do you tune that? It looks like you tune that.
Yes.
And you pull it.
So you push it up. So the sound is determined by the length of the time from where the bridge is. So the shorter it is, the higher, the longer it is, the lower. So I tune it by pushing it in and out. So when I push it in, the pitch goes up. When I pull it out, the pitch goes lower. And so I can do that, and then I'll be like, I need to change that. Okay. Sometimes you go and then they're like, you listen to the key they're playing in, the kalimba doesn't work, then I can quickly move it around.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, please.
Can you play the talking drum?
Please, yes, I can do that. Thank you. I forgot about that. So, normally my talking drum is smaller, but I got that broken yesterday. I have to fix the head. So I brought one of my friends. So I was trying to avoid playing it, but now I have to play it because I told that. Thank you so much for asking me to play the talking drum. I hope I'll be able to come back sometime. And Yeah, so I don't know if anyone else has a question, but thank you very much for having
Thank you
me
very
here.
much.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.